Are you gonna work this time? Or are you just gonna shaft me again? Please. For the love of God. I'm just gonna watch the stream house, so it's down to 4880. Now is it gonna randomly kill itself again, or we're gonna finally be in business? It's down to 485. Nothing's going on the network. So I have to assume it's Twitch. That's annoying. It's down to 3. Why is it slowly going down? Yep, it's still going down. Like, what's throttling it? Well, it's going back up. Trying to look at the chat. There we go. Try doing some movement here. Alright, we got chat going. Can you guys hear me? Christ, this has just been a marathon of trying to figure out why Twitch doesn't like my network, man. Alright, good God. Sorry about that. So, we just did some Vietnam stuff. Now we're gonna do some cooking, and then I gotta get this bad boy planted in my backyard. And then I gotta set these up, but I won't stream that. We're just gonna do some quick IRL stuff. So, Bloodwind wants crepes tonight, so we're gonna cook a few crepes. Now, in order to do that, first and foremost, we're gonna need a mixing bowl. So I don't want to get the biggest one I got. I'll get the second biggest one I got. Set that up right here. Got a measuring cup already good to go here. And then we're going to need some ingredients. So crepe recipe, it's pretty simple. You just need flour, milk, egg, butter, which is optional. I mean, that's just to make sure it doesn't stick to the pan, and some salt. I don't usually put sugar in mine though, so let's go ahead. Come over here, get this bad boy out of flour. But before I even do that, because we're gonna make a sweet and a savory crepe, I'm actually gonna go ahead and get something else out. Where is, there she is. Little thing of Gruyere cheese, because one of the crepes we're gonna make is ham and cheese. So we're gonna cut this up a little bit. I'm gonna let this come to room temperature as well, because when you let things come to room temperature, they cook more evenly, especially for things like steak. Same thing applies to things like cheese and whatnot. And it's really important that you let this thing come to room temperature, because it's gonna end up binding the ham to the crepe itself. So, let's see. A few things I'm gonna need to get out here. One, a bag to store the rest of this, that'll be good. Second is going to be a cutting board. Hopefully without causing a bunch of stuff to fall out. So we're gonna get that going. And then a knife, which, I don't wanna go too overkill here, but screw it, we'll go overkill. So, really first part, you just gotta cut slivers of this here. Bowl's not in the way. I like to do one cut, and then the rest we can just, unwrap out of the plastic at that point. Put that aside, put the knife in. Come on, you. Get the plastic off. Come on, you piece of shit. Do opposite sides. You want to keep at least some of the plastic on to help protect it. Excuse me. Freaking COVID, man. But we're going to get a few strips of this going. So, not too thick. Probably going to get, based on the size of how I'm going to do these crepes, let's do another 3 strips. I want to be careful here not to cut in and accidentally cook any plastic, because that would be disgusting. So one more, and then we'll bag this, put this in the fridge, put this off to the side. So peel it down a bit more, and we should be good to go. There's our last strip. All right. Easy enough. Put this away, use that for later. Save the rest in the fridge for another day. Shut that back in there. All right, won't need the knife for anything else, so I'll just go ahead and put that up there. Cheese, we'll go ahead and put it to the side. So now, simple recipe. So usually it's a 1-to-1 ratio, 1 cup of milk, 1 cup of flour, 1 egg, 1 pinch of salt, and then like 2 teaspoons of butter. What I'm gonna do is I usually half that recipe, excuse me, because I like to use some of the egg for a savory crepe. And I'm still going to make that savory crepe for myself, but Bloodwin, you know, she wants the ham and cheese. So what we're gonna do is, by having everything, we're only gonna be able to make about 4 crepes with that much batter. So we're gonna go ahead and take our ½ cup out, which is this puppy. I always have this little plastic ring to prevent them all from falling off, but it always likes to come apart. I'm not sure if you can see that right there, but it breaks away over time as we, you know, keep using it. So that'll probably break in another few months, but, you know, use it till you lose it. Come into the flour here. Now, here's another thing I will say. Usually you want a little more milk to flour, in my opinion, because you want the batter to be a little on the runnier side. Because if it's too thick, you're not able to get it all over the pan in time, and then it just gets a little too clumpy, it cooks uneven, and you aren't really left with the best crepe in the world. So that's one extra thing you gotta deal with. And another thing we're gonna be doing is using a whisk to aerate the batter as we mix it. You wanna make sure if you have a plastic bowl, use a plastic whisk, otherwise you might scratch up your bowl, end up with small little chunks of microplastic in your food. That would kind of suck. But otherwise, let's get 1 egg. Classic little cook in there. And then need a bowl for that egg. Whoops. None of the shell fell in, just like to flex that I can open these with one hand. Wash the yolk off, dry that off real quick because I just hate the yolk getting everywhere. Quickly beat the egg together because you want the proteins from both the egg and the yolk. That's what binds everything together for this little dish here. Clearly using a giant ass whisk though probably isn't the best thing to do, but that's fine. Put that off to the side, that's ready to go. Now we're gonna get the milk. Now, if you don't have that much milk, you can usually use, you know, half milk, half water if you really, really need to, but it's not what I would recommend because there's also proteins in the milk that help you in cooking all of this. So we want to get a little over ½ a cup, in my opinion. You should measure at the meniscus, which isn't that tough. So if you want us to look, it doesn't help that I'm, you know, awkwardly holding it, but it's slightly above the half point. That's what you want to mix. Now, another thing you can do, which I never run into a problem with this recipe, but some people like to whisk in the flour with something like this to prevent chunks of flour from building up in the batter. But if you're using a whisk instead of a wooden spoon, usually the whisk is good at breaking those things apart, so you won't have chunks of flour in while you cook. Also, by adding a little more milk than flour, it helps make everything a little more even here. So, whoops. Just want to make sure you whisk all of this in. Get a nice even batter here. You want to make sure any little pockets of flour that are forming on the sides, you whisk those out as well. I'm not sure if I'm giving enough angle for the camera. It's hard to see. based off of my phone. But otherwise, you want to then do half of the egg because the other half we're going to use for something later. Again, you're just using the egg for the proteins at that point because we're having everything, because usually it's just a 1-to-1 ratio. And get that all mixed in. So, butter. Oh man. Make sure you grab the unsalted stuff, because if you add salt to it, then it's going to make things a little saltier in that regard. And this should be enough for what I want to do with it. So usually what I do is I grab a ramekin, because ramekins are really, really good at redistributing heat everywhere. That looks to be about, you know, tablespoon and a half. Just chuck this in the microwave, 30 seconds. Should be nice and easy. Put that over by the trash. And now we're just gonna wait for that to go. So let's see. If I wanted to look through chat, we would just look down like this. Thought I saw Moxie give a resub. Yeah, 46 months. Thanks, my man. I'm making you hungry? I'm sorry, man. It's okay. The stream's about a third from being done. Also, your last month of sub prison. Yep. I'll make sure to give Wolves right on that to get you going there. All right. Well, that's ready. Now, careful, because it's a ramekin, so if you touch that, you're going to burn your freaking hand, so grab a towel. And it did not fully melt, because of course it didn't, so we're going to put it back in for another 30 seconds. Now, while that's going, we're going to go ahead and get a crepe pan out. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, any pan is going to work. It doesn't really matter. You just want to go for sizes. So, in my opinion, this is a good pan to work with, but again, as long as you just have a big pan, you're fine. But that's a genuine great pan, so. Alright. Now, another thing, which I should have done, is put some of this over that. So if it explodes, it goes on the paper towel instead of all over the microwave. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but it's literally sizzling. Looks like it didn't explode though, so lucky me. Oh, baby. Alright, I'm gonna let this cool down, because if you have super hot butter go into a batter, it does start to cook the batter, which does make some of the cooking a little uneven when you finally get it up on the heat. So while that's going, I'm gonna put the flour away. There we go. All right. Still burning freaking hot. That will literally burn me. A little bit of extra milk that was left in there. Get that all mixed up. Batter's still a little thick. It's runny, but still slightly thick, but we can make that work. And then we're gonna let the butter cool down. I think it's good. As long as you mix it real quick, it won't completely cook your batter, but you know, that is something to be aware of. And I'm already going too slow. And again, this is to make sure that it doesn't stick to the pan. Now, one ingredient I've been forgetting, which I will now add, is the salt. I have no idea why the recipe says for a pinch of salt, because everyone's fingers are different. So, you know, a pinch for me is, I want to say, average. A pinch by Bloodwayne, who has smaller hands than me, is going to be, you know, smaller than that. So I just do a small little handful right there. Very small, literally about half to maybe a fourth of a teaspoon, which I think it's supposed to be less than that, but I like to have at least a little bit of salt inside. All right, that should be good. Now I'll put that aside here. We'll start on the pan. I'm trying to think, how am I gonna do the camera? I guess we could do something like this, because I've never done this shit before. If we just move the GoPro maybe right here, we put the phone right there. How does that angle work? on the pan. Thankfully I didn't turn that on yet. I'm waiting for the delay to come up. Yeah, it should be good. I mean, maybe just a little more even like that. That should be fine. But anyway, let's go ahead and fire up the stove here. Both layers. I got the Gruyere right here. While we're waiting on that, I'm gonna take the egg mixture I have, add a little bit of dried parsley to it. This is just how I like to eat these egg crepes. So I put in quite a bit. Not too much, but here just to show you. And then we're gonna mix that up with a spoon. No, a fork. Got that mixed up, ready to go. You don't wanna go too hard with it, otherwise you scrape up the sides of the bowl. Doesn't really work out. We'll leave that in there. We want this to catch a nice little bit of heat here. I need to get one of those helmets and put the GoPro on my head so you can see my POV. I think that would be better. But yeah, that's already heated up a bit. Now what I like to do is once everything's mixed up in here, I usually use a ladle. So we ladle in a chunk of that. And then we just get this all around. Now I don't think I added enough batter here. So I'm not gonna put it back on the heat just yet. I'm just gonna grab another ladle of batter here and put it off to the side. And then we're just gonna slowly mix all that up. Try to fill in the little cracks right there. We got another one forming, I fixed it. And then slowly add all this, because right now it's not on the heat right there, so it's not cooking. So you can literally just, you know, make something like that and then put it back on the heat. And that should be fine. A little bit of steam coming off. Just gonna take its time now. So for this one, I'm thinking, let's do the egg crepe, because that's the easiest. So take your little egg mixture here. Just put that in the middle. This is usually a breakfast crepe idea that I like to do, but I'm just gonna eat that. I'm gonna take 2 stacks of Gruyere and put them right in. Now for this one, we're gonna wanna reduce our heat a little bit because we want it to cook in the middle, just a touch. And that's what it's gonna pretty much look like, and we're gonna let that cook out. So I'm gonna give it another minute, then start separating it from the edges. We have plenty of butter in it though, so it's not gonna get stuck. And now we're just gonna wait it out essentially. Oh, the camera needs to be lower. Whoops, there we go. By the way, the pickled peaches are right there, the stoli's right there. Good stuff. I'm probably gonna use a little bit of the pickled peaches for the dessert crepes, but we'll get there when we get there. So another thing that we can do, I only do a spatula for the savory because with the sweet ones, I can just easily run those out. But since the crepe's weight's gonna be a little heavy because of the egg and cheese, I wanna be a little more careful with it. All right, that is ready to flip at a moment's notice. We're just letting it cook itself out. I'm gonna grab 2 plates. I prefer the flat one here. And we're gonna have that right behind the camera for now. I'm not sure if I should flip it, just because it's gonna make the cheese get a little melty, but yeah, we can do that, just here. How you flip a crepe, you bundle it in the front and then you just let it do the work, and I completely fucked it up. Okay. It's because the cheese is weighing it out, but there we go. That's how you fix it. Just put the cheese back on where it's supposed to be, grab the side of the crepe that is stuck and part of the egg is stuck. You little shit, there we go. And now we're cooking the other side, just at least let the cheese melt a little bit. Well, it's not gonna be super clean, but that's okay. You wanna keep it moving so the cheese doesn't get stuck to the pan. The way down. is very annoying. But you know what? That's okay. Not the prettiest one in the world. I swear the next one will be better. But hey, that one's mine. And I always give myself the ugly ones. Bloodwing gets the pretty ones. This one will be more pretty, because this is going to be with the ham and Gruyere, which is going to be much more presentable anyway. So I'm getting all the spare cheese, rubbing that off my crepe right here. I'm a sucker for overcooking my cheese and making it a little crunchy. It's just how I like to eat. Now this one, I'm going to get a full as this ladle can go here. Get that in. As you can see, we're slowly layering that around. I'm probably gonna need a second ladle's worth, just because this pan is so big. Just continue that where I left it off. It's hard to do it at a presentable angle for the camera because I have to be so quick with maneuvering the batter. We had a few little small holes open up right there, but that's fine. Let that cook, reduce the heat even more. I'm going to immediately put the cheese on this, and this is gonna cook for a little bit. Now, this right here is Virginia ham. Bloodwing is a sucker for Virginia ham. This is the good shit. Wow, she got over a pound of it too, good God. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna let this cook off, let this start to melt, and once it starts to melt, I'm gonna put this on it. And then we're gonna basically fold it, and that's gonna be as French as you can get. If you were to make that into a sandwich in France, it would be called a croque monsieur, which is literally just a ham and cheese sandwich. Now, what I need to check here is, do I have enough to make a dessert crepe? Because this pan is a little on the big side. I think I have enough here to ladle in a dessert crepe here, and that's gonna also be for Bloodwing. And it's gonna leak out slightly, but that's okay. All right. I wanna be careful on the shaking because the weight of the Gruyere makes it a little tougher for the crepe to separate from the pan. There we go. Now I just want to let this cook for another 30 seconds, give or take. And I'm going to probably put 4 pieces of ham on this. Lexi asking a cooking question. Cheese chunks or shredded cheese? I would say if you're doing it in the oven, chunks of cheese are better because they form nice little gooey pockets. So something like a mac and cheese, for example, I would argue chunks are better. But for cooking on the stove, I would say shredded is better. The only reason I didn't do shredded here is because I am lazy. But generally shredded cooks more evenly because it adds more surface area. All right. Now we're literally just going to put these on top of the crepe, slowly but surely. Now let me get this back into the fridge, because if you're not careful with this, it'll spoil, and that's like, you know, 15 bucks down the line. But here, let me show you what this looks like. Don't be afraid to let the other side of the crepe brown a bit for a savory one like this, because this one does take a good amount of time, but also make sure you reduce the heat if you need to let this more evenly cook. If you keep that on too high of a heat, you're gonna end up burning the other side of your crepe, and that's gonna leave a really bitter taste. And that's, well, you don't want that, trust me. Christopher, how are you doing, buddy? Now, if I was an idiot, I wouldn't flip this, but it's tempting. 50-50, it's gonna literally fly off of this stove here, but All right. You want to watch Liru fuck up? Oh. Look at that. So you got the chunks of Gruyere right there. You can see the ham. This is going to now cook the ham slightly, get a little bit of caramelization going, and then we're going to get a great fold on it. So we're just going to give that a little bit of a chance here to cook. You want to keep shaking it like that to make sure the cheese doesn't get stuck, because if this gets stuck to the pan, then you're screwed. That's why I use so much butter, to make sure that didn't happen. Give it another 20-30 seconds. And while that's going, I'm going to move my pathetic little crepe to another plate, just so I have more room to fold this crepe properly. Whew. All right. Now you just got to flip it back. There we go. Now you got some nice browning on the ham. Doesn't want to shake anymore, so I'm probably going to have to use the pan now. To get that on the plate. All right. Ooh, 1 second. It's really heavy now, so it's really hard to move without tearing the crepe. So I'm going to let this sit for a second just to show you guys. And once it cools down a bit, I'm going to fold it into a bit of a packet, and I'll show you guys how to do that. But last crepe to cook off, this one's going to be the sweet one. Now this is where it gets interesting. Normally I spread Nutella on the crepes, but we don't have that luxury. So I'm just going to make this a simple chocolate crepe with some chocolate buttons. So let's go ahead and move some of this out of the way here, just so I can be quick with the crepe. Now since this is a sweet crepe, I'm going to want to scrub all the savory stuff off. It's okay if you have a little bit of oil from the cheese on, because that'll just help with the batter not sticking. And then this one I'm going to start by putting the batter in the middle. And here, I'm going to grab the GoPro this time. And we're just going to pretty much slowly go around and expand on the room, circling the crepe. And that's the shape I get. Nothing too bad about that. That's just what I'm going to work with there. So get a little bit of the batter remaining wherever that goes. Drop that on the side, drizzle it a bit on the edge, expand the shape as much as I can with that remaining batter. And then we can just let that evenly cook. Now, here's where the fun begins. Chocolate chips. And we're going to literally apply them right on top of the crepe. Now, quick thing. Make sure none of these chocolate chips go immediately on the cookware. You want to make sure there's a little bit of batter between the chocolate chips and the cookware. Otherwise, the chips are going to burn. You also want to make sure none of them are stuck together. And immediately as I'm putting them on, you'll notice that they're already starting to melt. So I mean, I can literally just press them down. You can see some of them already melting down. And this is all on like medium-low heat. So we're just gonna let that cook off for a second. And I'm not gonna flip this one. I am going to let it just cook. So while that is cooking, I'm gonna start putting a few things away. I can put this in the sink. Now we have our pickled peaches here. I'm gonna try one. Because I've never tried this. So I'm just gonna get a nice spoonful of the top. And that all just fell back in. All right, 1 second. Oh, wow. That is delicious. It's literally a peach, but softer in texture. And then you get the flavor of the honey and the flavor of the almond, and it just melts in your mouth. That was honestly delicious. Okay. Wow. Yeah, no, we're gonna top this crepe with some of that. Now, I'm gonna put that on the lowest heat possible, just to kind of keep it on heat here. And now we're gonna go with folding this crepe here. So, I'm gonna do it by hand. It's still a little hot. We're gonna fold those 2 pieces like that. And we're gonna fold this top layer like this. And that gives you a nice little crepe pocket right there. All right. Now we're gonna grab our next crepe here. Now you gotta be careful about it. See how the chocolate's sliding? So you wanna grab that little nub. And these will continue to melt as you fold this crepe, same way. This one can be a little bit tougher, but if you want to, where's that spoon I just used? You can wash off the spoon real quick, and then you can nudge the chocolate around to really mix it, make sure it's all melted down. But see how it's partially mixing as well? I know it looks a little funny. Don't worry. And then you can also, evenly push the chocolate all around. But again, you're gonna fold it like a purse here. You wanna make sure that you seal it like this so nothing gets out. Then there's your chocolate. You got a little bit of a bleed over right there. And then we're going to take some of that pickled peaches. I'm gonna grab some chopsticks here. And we're going to pretty much layer these on top. And it's going to be delicious. Let's get another big piece right there. And there you go. I'm gonna have another bite of this. Like, I'm not even kidding, guys. This shit's delicious. Like, actually. All right. Got that all resealed. And there you go. Savory, sweet. And then my little abomination over there. Honey? She's asleep. She's fucking asleep. A piece of hair right there. Whoops. All right. But otherwise, that that should be it. The jar was pressurized. It was fine. We just had to occasionally open it. I got some stuff for everything there, but I think that's pretty much it. You know what? We're gonna eat the really shitty one with my hand. First off, I'm gonna put one of these up on as garnish because that's delicious. But simple egg and Gruyere. This is the good shit. Honestly, like, this is what I love to eat. Is any form of cooked Gruyere and a meat like egg or ham. Honestly, delicious. Otherwise, I think I'm gonna wrap up the stream here. That was just a quick little how to make. Let me turn the damn stove off so I don't burn the house down, because I'm really bad at doing that. I'm gonna go serve this to Bloodwing upstairs. So, thank you so much for watching. Go operate operationally. We'll be back in maybe an hour or two for mission development. As I mentioned earlier, I gotta go plant this puppy. Otherwise, cheers, and have a good one. Now, how do I end it? I think I just hit this button, right?